We're here with Johnny Iuzzini, and we are making not just eclairs, but very special eclairs. Eclairs are obviously something that's very classic, and a lot of people say like, okay, you know, there's vanilla and there's chocolate and maybe like strawberry, but do not mess. I mean, can you mess with eclairs?
Think of an eclair as a blank canvas. You know, it's a simple pâte à choux shell. It's a crispy shell. It's not particularly sweet or savory, so you could lend itself to any application. You know, and it's actually a great carrier of flavors. I mean, when I think about in general how I create food, I think about balance. You know, I think about not only a sweet and savory balance, but also a creamy and a crispy balance. You know, and you know, when you first bake a shell, they're quite crispy, but as they sit and they take on the condensation, the moisture, essentially from the fillings and stuff, they tend to soften.
And are there certain things that work really well to add to pastry creams, and are there certain things that you wouldn't recommend?
I mean, pastry cream is one of those things that it's so easy to manipulate that you could I can make a pastry cream out of your shoe, you know, and have it taste delicious.
That would be delicious.
It would be, but I mean, it's one of those things that you can make it out of anything, anything. And but you know, what I always tell people is sugar isn't a flavor. If the first thing you taste is sweet, you fail. You know, you want it to be a burst of flavor, whatever that flavor is. So in our case, you know, we really wanted to really represent the regions. Okay.
So what is the eclair that we're making today?
So when we went to San Francisco, we visited the farmer's market, we went foraging, so a lot of cool flavors. So we have, I kept seeing wild fennel everywhere. So we're using fennel in 2 different ways, fennel pollen as well as fresh fennel fronds. Bee pollen, raw honey, you know, crystallized almonds. I went foraging actually this weekend up in the Catskills, and I picked these out of the bushes at my friend's house. So there was a lot of amazing fruit and berries. No.
So you can really use, I mean, from herbs to berries to nuts, and even mix them in.
Even the fondant. Traditionally, fondant is just it's sweet, you know, but it doesn't have to be that way. So what I did is. This actually has the raw honey in it. It has lemon zest, lemon juice. So again, it's a traditional topping, but really kind of brought up to the next level.
And when you think about balancing that, how much honey versus how much traditional pastry cream, how much can you go for people experimenting at home?
I mean, again, you have to think about texture. You know, you don't want your cream to be too tight or too loose. You know, if you add too much liquid to a cream, it's going to get too runny, and and the problem is not only will it be difficult to work with, but it will make your shell too soft. So you always have to think about how it affects your shell. You know, we always try to fill our shells right before we serve them. You know, everything about being fresh.
Okay, great. So let's get started. Where do we begin?
So I'm a big fan of having multiple textures at the same time. And again, if I have blueberries fresh, I made a blueberry jam of the same stuff. So a trick to filling eclairs to always make sure you have it filled is a little bit of each end. You do yours. Another great thing in the market today was corn. So what I did is I took corn, caramelized it in the pan, fresh corn, and made a corn pastry cream. I love corn and blueberry together. Fill each of your ends with that.
Okay.
And then you have a little rag here.
Don't ruin it.
You're not going to ruin anything. Part of the fun is experimenting, though, is playing with different flavors that you know work, but changing the mediums of them. You know, everybody loves corn, but how many people make a caramelized corn pastry cream?
Not
many. You do. Okay, so this is the tricky part now. You always want to fill your eclairs first and then glaze them. Never glaze and then fill. It becomes very difficult.
Sticky.
So when you think about fondant, there's a trick to working with fondant. You want it to be about your body temperature, just below, like 95 to 97 is optimal for fondant. You want to get a good viscosity, so when you drizzle it on itself like this, you kind of want to slowly melt down into itself. If it goes right away into a puddle, it's too loose and it's going to run off your eclair. Okay. So the trick now, I'll show you, is we dip about halfway, lift it up, and use just your finger just across the top, and on the bottom, boom.
Okay, so yours looks perfect.
Yours is going to look just as beautiful. You see now, a little too much, but it's okay though. Yeah. And then just use your finger. You ever see that's always got the perfect line?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have it by itself.
Yeah.
Okay, then you
did it magically just happen? And now you get to lick your fingers.
So now is when we kind of can get creative. So this is the fennel pollen. Go ahead with that.
Okay.
Bee pollen. So again, I always think about flavors. If I have honey in the glaze, I want to have some kind of honey on here. Here's some of the blueberries. These are great. A couple of those on there. So this is honeycomb. A little bit of honeycomb on each one. Again, reinforcing some of the flavor profiles. Almond.
No, but these are like
toasted. Yeah, they're called like dragée. But what I did is I made a syrup with rose water and orange blossom water and sugar, and I just really at 200 degrees let them kind of just crystallize. So you don't get a whole lot of color, but they're really crispy. And if you smell them, They're really floral.
Yeah, they're great.
And then we're just gonna finish with a little bit of the fresh fennel. So we have dried fennel, fresh fennel, dried honey, fresh honey.
So it's really
Blueberry
about
jam, fresh blueberries.
Jam. I was gonna say.
It's always about showing flavor and reinforcing those flavors with different textures. That's the fun part.
Great.
I think they look beautiful. Yours look beautiful.
Ta-da! Perfect. So if people don't want to make them themselves and they just want to get them, where can they get them?
So globally right now, for the next year, my partnership, we're going to be doing Eclairs everywhere that there's a Le Méridien location.
And so right now we have this San Francisco-inspired eclair. Thank you so much for teaching us how to make it. Really appreciate it.
I expect you to, next time I come over, you make me Eclairs. Look how beautiful that is. Come on.
It won't look as good as this.
For someone who first time making an Eclair, that's pretty beautiful.
Ta-da! It's because you taught me. Thank you.